completely realized that seldom had he appeared to greater advantage. As for the last time, he imperceptibly adjusted the knot of his gray silk cravat, with its single line of horizontal black. He thought with a pang how happy his dear Louise would have been to see him as he looked upon this morning of her funeral. With a little sigh, he turned to the door and ran lightly down the stairs. At the cemetery, as the clods of earth thudded with solemn import upon the coffin, he grasped the arm of his companion and whispered, "I cannot bear it." I know," murmured Hippolyte Allard, and together they left the burying ground. The sun shone brilliantly above the roofs of Paris in the distance. In the suburbs the dust of puff-balls filled the air. But sadly the two friends trod the pavements, thinking of her whom they had left behind. Incomparable Louise! "My dear friend, how you must suffer," said Hippolyte Allard. "My heart bleeds with your own. She was so exquisite and dear." "There was none like her in the world," cried Lacenaire despairingly. "I could not stay until the end, Hippolyte. You do not blame me." "Blame you, my dear Louis? I marvel at the restraint that held you until it did." The bereaved lover pressed his companion's arm. "For a time I was dazed," he explained. "I experienced that dim sensation of looking on, disembodied. You understand? At what had gone beyond my power to suffer. Then suddenly something snapped within me. It seemed that a veil was snatched from my eyes, so that I saw clearly the desecration that was going forward, that lovely body that was being laid away in the earth, those dreadful clods. You understand?" "Perfectly, my friend. It was indeed terrible. Those clods also fell upon my own heart. They were like the beats of a dreadful drum. But you must not distress yourself too greatly for too long. It is not fair to yourself, Louis. I grieve to see you so broken by this sorrow. And there is still your work." "My work," gestured the poet. "It will never be the same," he added with determined pessimism. "It was for her I wrote my finest sonnets. Her inspiration was in my greatest lines. The monster death that cockles lovers all. You remember, Hippolyte, how happy I was the day I wrote that final line? How could I know that it was prophetic? Yesterday, Hippolyte, I went to her rooms. The dear little Claire was still there in charge, yet everything was different. The furniture seemed to have been moved about. I felt that I was in a different place. It was like an apartment arranged for guests, you know. Little Claire was kind and sympathetic, but my dear Louise was gone. I knew that she would never be there again." His companion nodded. "I know the emotion," he said. "I felt it once in my own place. It had been changed about for an amateur rehearsal. Dubernay was there. You remember him? He had been cast as a musketeer. He looked like a waxworks D'Artagnan. Marie was mad about him. But the little Claire is always kind and sympathetic. How she, too, must miss our dear Louise." "She was so exquisitely simple in her white frock," said Lacenaire. "She had refused to go into mourning. Louise would not have liked it, she said, and it was true. There were tears in her eyes as she embraced me. Her sympathy was very comforting." "She is very sweet and good," agreed Hippolyte Allard, understandingly. "May it not be, Louis, that through her association with your Louise, she is the one to ease the wound that you have suffered?"